Finishing up a launch or a marketing campaign and having no clue if it was good or bad or worse, feeling like it did not meet your expectations can be incredibly frustrating. So in this video, I'm going to show you some of the exact steps to go through to run some launch metrics on past launches you've had or any upcoming marketing campaigns you're planning. If that sounds like a dream, by the end of this video, you are going to have 3 steps to go through to begin to map out and see if your launch was a success or not. Hit like if that sounds like a plan and stay tuned till the end. I'm going to take you behind the scenes and show you something I've never shared on the internet before. It is a launch recap and a report template that's saved in my Google Drive. I love it. I use it all the time. I'm going to also tell you how you can snag a copy for yourself. Hey there, if we haven't met yet, my name is Ashlyn Carter. I'm a conversion copywriter and launch strategist, and I have helped thousands of creative entrepreneurs just like you make more money with their words. I drop videos like this every single week. If you haven't yet, look down below, hit the subscribe button and the bell next to it, and that's how you'll know when the next one drops. All that said, let's get into the tips. Step number 1, actually set your launch goals. But I'm not just talking your sales goals here. I tell my students inside Time to Launch, my program, that there are 5 different arenas that I would like for you to set goals and then capture metrics. We'll talk about that later in the video within. Number 1, brand awareness. What do people actually know and think about your brand? Also, spoiler, this one's typically harder to measure than the other 4 I'm gonna walk through. Number 2, engagement. How did people interact with pieces of the marketing campaign you were pushing out? Number 3, lead generation. As a result of your marketing campaign or launch, who's knocking on your door and wanting to work with you, either in some kind of capacity that you launched as part of the offer, or this is the auxiliary bump that happens with a good launch. People, you're back on their radar, and now that you are on their radar, they want to work with you in either some other type of capacity, purchase something else that you offer, or partner with you in some kind of way. Number 4, sales, duh. And number 5, customer retention or client retention. On the back end of your launch and marketing campaign, do those people even want to stick around, or do they didn't get what they bargained for, they want a refund? Those kind of things we need to look at as well. Okay, I'm going to show you a post-launch campaign and how to unpack all of this, but before we even get there, we have got to set some goals and metrics to aim for in all 5 of these categories. I constantly see students and just people in my audience feel disappointed after a launch, and I really think that there are 2 culprits that come to play here. Number 1, they didn't set any expectations or goals to begin with. They just had an arbitrary number in mind. And that leads to number 2, because they didn't have necessarily specific goals, they just, for lack of a better word, kind of drank the Kool-Aid that launch culture pushes down on us. I think after hearing so many times people have a 5-figure, 6-figure, 7-figure launch, we don't realize, but we internalize some of that, and then we'll have our own launch and it maybe doesn't hit that, and so we think, well, that was a failure. This is why, copywriter though I may be, I love data so much, because it tells a story. Yes, I can feel a certain way about my marketing campaign or my launch, but I've got to actually look at the numbers, look at the facts of the matter, and then assess and determine how things actually went based on that. Comment below if some of those lies that are out there or expectations that are thrust on us you maybe didn't even realize that you had from a past launch, or if you've gone into something with no expectations and then realized on the back end that was the problem. Okay, so here's my solution to all of that: setting realistic goals. Put on your math hat, let's talk some numbers. I tell clients to plan on converting about 3 to 5% of your warm leads, that is your launch list, so to speak. Now that's 3 to 5% of the entire launch vehicle mechanism that we have moving out there. So not just your sales page or your landing pages along the way, but I'm actually talking about like all of the emails that go into that too. Your pre-launch emails, the warm-up emails, the sales campaign itself. Let's drill deeper and talk about landing page conversion rates themselves, because I think they may be lower than you may think. That's typically what I see on average, and a lot goes into this, but of 100 people that are landing on a landing page, you can typically plan on converting about 2.35% of them according to an impact study. This stuff changes a lot. It will vary on industry. I'll talk about that in a sec. But again, I don't know if that seems low to you or high to you, but it's a good benchmark to at least consider. So many factors go into affecting this, from the hook of the message on that landing page, that sales page, to the offer itself. Do people actually want it? Imagery, videos, CTA buttons, and where they fall on the page. I've done a video in the past where I crunched through exactly how to find, like the math on sticky notes, how to find the conversion rate of any page that you may have in your business, so I'll link that down below. What's a good conversion rate for a website? The top 25% of websites as a whole, so not just one landing page, but the whole website, convert at about 5.3%. Stick with me, I'm gonna throw a few more numbers to you that may be of interest because they'll apply to your specific industry or niche. With business consulting, shout out to coaches out there, it's about 5%. Travel websites, we have a few students who do that, 5%. Job training websites convert a little higher at about 6%. E-commerce is historically a little lower. I dug up a study that showed in 2019, this was a little data study, the conversion rate for that website typically is more around 1 to 4%. Okay, clear as mud, right? That was a lot of numbers I threw at you, but here's the overall takeaway I think this tells us. It freaking takes a lot of volume to have a successful launch. It takes a lot of eyes moving into that funnel, landing on that sales page, offer page, landing page, checkout page itself to see a big volume turnout on the other side in sales. And this is why I made Prime to Launch, why I think it's so important to prime your audience for the offer. We even had a launch client tell us after we worked together, she said, I totally get why people focus on list building now though. She realized what I'm trying to tell you now, that it takes a big volume to likely hit those numbers that you may be dreaming of. And again, that's not a good thing or a bad thing. I just want you to manage your expectations. Yes, there are unicorns out there, they're runaway success stories, but these are just good places to start when you're setting your goals like you're doing here in step 1. One more bonus tip, like I was talking about, brand awareness is typically a little more difficult to measure, and there's gonna be some intangible stuff that happens with your launch. For example, I swear we always have people, when we go through a launch in my own business, that'll say, oh my gosh, I had no idea that you do this. I am saving up. I'm coming for you. I'm gonna purchase this in 6 months or in a year. Those kind of things you don't always hear about, but that's going on in people's heads too, so don't forget that that may be going on. Okay, to wrap up here, step number 1, I at least want you to go back, write those 5 categories down, those arenas I want you to start measuring, and journal through some ideas that you have for your upcoming launches that you have planned for 2021 and goals you wanna hit in those categories. Step number 2, actually take time for reporting. This one's hard for me personally because after a launch, I want to lay on the couch and eat bonbons and take naps. But I make myself, and I tell this to clients and students as well, you need to do 3 types of reporting. Your financial and sales tracking, duh. Number 2, stats tracking that's not necessarily directly financial, but I'm talking like email open rates, click-through rates, that kind of thing here. And number 3, you've got to do a mental download of wins, losses, challenges, and things that you can tweak and repeat for next time. Sometimes this is where your best ideas for the next launch can come from. Things like, you know what, next time let's put a sticky note on the wall and draft everybody's name that comes through as a sale on it, or let's make sure we put in the Instacart order for snacks on Sunday and not Wednesday because we were hungry. These sound silly, but if you're following that quarterly champagne 4 launches a year outline that I give you, I talked about it in my last video, there's some space between your launches and you don't always remember these things, or at least I don't. Okay, let me flip the camera around and show you the inside of a doc that I have sworn by. It's so great. This is the launch recap and reporting moratorium, for lack of a better word, that I go through. This doc is saved as a template in Google Drive, but I have also dropped a copy of it inside Prime to Launch. But I wanted to show you, essentially, you could obviously make something like this yourself, but I like to, before I just have to get things through my thick skull, put things, if I had set goals, I'm going to need to list those first, otherwise I'm going to not be able to see the forest for the trees. So that is the first thing I would recommend, is like putting those goals up above, and then I get into sales reporting after that. Now I typically run launches, and I know inside Prime to Launch I teach about having a hype piece, and I'm a big fan of those. No matter what kind of hype piece, you have to have some sort of vehicle to communicate and pitch the offer that you have, or the new program, or whatever it is. And so this is a little bit formulated off of that. So if you're not familiar with that concept that I teach, feel free to post any questions below. But that is up here. I bubble up to the top the biggest statistics that matter to me that I'm looking at. But like I said, I also want to gather and look through engagement reporting. So I have some of this, some of these I have also in the past, and I put this here in the template. I have like copy pasted an entire spreadsheet page, like
tables that are inside our email marketing platform and put this in here so I can really dig in and look and see like, okay, that email did great. That one did not. What was it about that? So on and so forth. I always kind of want to note unsubscribes aren't that big of a deal to me, but I would be interested in knowing the one that cost the most in the funnel. Chat boxes, I think like it's incredible if you can look and attribute to your different channels how much in sales came in because of conversations wherever they were happening, whether it was, in DMs or in ads back and forth, whatever it was. And so I kind of try to document that stuff as well. Lead gen reporting, I want to track like before, and I back it up to pre-launch. I want it because if I'm going into pre-launch, that is a audience building, a traffic building time. And so I want to track where I was before pre-launch started and then into the launch itself or after the launch itself. If you do webinar or this could be a challenge reporting, there's so many different types of hype pieces, and I give lots of examples of those inside PTL, but that's where I would do some sort of reporting on that, and then financial reporting, of course. I'm big into breaking all of this down and figuring out exactly how much did we make in this. And again, like this is all done. I love figuring out finances and running projections for our business. So I keep a lot of this in big spreadsheets, but I'm just jotting it here to kind of mentally trigger. I also would recommend before you go into a launch, figuring out what you're spending. I tell a lot of our clients for your initial launch of a product, my big goal there, I always just want to manage their expectations. You should make back your investment and then some, is like a little bit more to pay yourself, but and then you can crank it up after. But because of that, that's why I really want to make sure I'm keeping track of what the cost of goods are for that. And then lastly, like I said, really documenting wins, challenges, ideas for next time, product changes to make. Those are the kind of things that I swear I will never remember unless I document them right after the launch. So I hope that is a helpful template to look at. And again, you can create something like this yourself.
Bonus, I just slid it inside the 4th module of the Prime to Launch Masterclass series. So if you want access to it to keep in your own files, voila, there it is. Enjoy. And step number 3, this one's pretty easy, but optimistically plan for next time. You set your goals, you ran the launch, and you walked through in the last step 2, that recap plan I showed you. You typed up the overall report, but now I would pick 4 to 5 takeaways, bullet points that you can actually implement for the next time. This is something I love helping our clients with. Sometimes it's hard to see the back of your hair, but figuring out, okay, we have this data and this information, what steps can we take going forward to make it better for next time? It's gonna be hard to do everything on your list if you're like me. I'm an overachiever and I wanna do all of them, but I found realistically I could probably make 4 to 5 big tweaks to the next launch, and it's time to go again. This also makes it easier when you go back to step number 1 at the top of this video and you're setting your goals for a new launch. If you've done this well and you've gotten to the end of a campaign, you've written out what you're gonna change, those can be your goals for next time. So kind of all feeds in and it's cyclical. And there you have it. If you want even more ideas about planning your upcoming launches, priming your audience well for that with content that actually converts and moves the needle, then be sure to look down below, head to primetolaunch.com. You can get your hands on my playbook. It's my answer on how to strategize, organize, and craft marketing content that power glides into your upcoming launch. You have the option too to add on the masterclass series where I take you behind the scenes more, give you some over-the-shoulder videos and tutorials. It's a little bit more bonus content if you want that. Again, I'll link that below or head to primetolaunch.com to check it out. Now you know how to measure the success of your 2021 launches, but what about how to even create that marketing plan to begin with for a new calendar year? Well, be sure to watch the video I have for you next, teed up. It's all about how I set a marketing plan for the year. If you liked this video, it wouldn't hurt if you click that like button and subscribe to the channel, and be sure to comment below if there are any questions you have about this that I can answer. Here's to working from a place of more rest, less hustle. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.